Joe Biden has passed his physical exam this week, according to White House Dr. Kevin O'Connor. Dr. O'Connor concluded after taking the exam that the 81-year-old Commander-in-Chief is fit to run the country. An exam which is not bound by law, but has become normal in modern history for the president to sit a physical exam annually, which is then released to the public. But did he really pass? Physically, Joe Biden is fit for his age. He doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink, he's got at a good weight, and he regularly exercises. The exam looks at everything from optometry to his reflux issues, to his teeth, orthopedics, and his sleep patterns and more. But what about his mental health? The exam results claim that President Biden's neurology is examined, but Americans are questioning how accurate this conclusion of the president is fit to run the country is if his cognitive health is not even looked at.
Come on. A 10-year-old can see this man on the TV and say something's wrong with that man.
This is what one of the things that is gonna annoy me. I know this is gonna happen. Is someone's gonna be like, he has a clean bill of health. His doctor wrote that thing. I'm like, look at what I'm looking at, and now a guy is waving a piece of paper. Now look at it again. Did it change because he waved a piece of paper around, or are you still looking at that same thing?
Well, yes, this exam is released to the public. The White House physician is still bound by confidentiality to a degree. There have been circumstances in the past where physicians haven't disclosed certain health problems to the public. For instance, JFK's Addison's disease was kept secret, Eisenhower's heart attack, and Grover Cleveland's jaw cancer. So does this exam paint the full picture? Former White House doctor Ronny Jackson, who served under Bush, Obama, and Trump, thinks it's a cover-up.
Test as part of this physical exam. They did a neurological exam. There's 5 parts to a neuro exam. One of them that they conveniently left out, the one that we care about, is the mental status exam. We have nothing on his mental status. This was a complete joke by Dr. O'Connor. And, you know, if he were serious about this, he would have done a thorough, comprehensive, objective exam that included a cognitive exam. And he would have stood up before the press in the press briefing room, and he would have defended it, and he would have answered questions. But he doesn't, because he doesn't want to answer the questions because he's going to have to lie.
Biden's White House press secretary thinks the president passes a cognitive exam every day.
I think folks need to understand that the president passes, again, a cognitive test every day. If you look at what a clinical cognitive test is actually, what it actually does, it is a 15-minute appointment that is administered by someone that most of the time people don't actually know. And the president has a team of doctors that is with him 24/7. And he is able to do the work every day that is rigorous, that is more rigorous than it would be for any 15-minute clinical appointment.
What did you guys think about this? Because James is shaking his head. Do you think that Dr. O'Connor is hiding something?
I mean, I just think it's absolutely astonishing. I mean, I'm not sure that the press secretary herself would pass cognitive tests on some occasions, given some of the dissembling that she seems to come out with.
Her job is rather difficult, I think. I mean, no one could spin what's currently happening to Joe Biden.
Right.
And yet they are.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, they're not really.
Well, not really, according to the polls.
But this is quite worrying, right? So it's all very funny when he makes a gaffe and all the rest of it. But when you go behind the scenes and think that some of the pressures of the job, especially this year coming up, 2020 was a bit different because of COVID. He could hide away in his basement in Delaware and campaign via Zoom. Fine. Can't do that anymore. He's had 4 years of the most stressful job in the world. We can all see what's happening, having to fly around the country and go on campaigns with the nuclear football, as it's called, this briefcase with launch codes and all the rest of it. You know, the most stressful decision that any human could ever possibly make. You know, do you initiate or reply to a nuclear Armageddon or not? When you've got a guy who can't get his words out properly, who's clearly fading. It's a sad thing to see in some ways.
Yeah. It is sad, but it's also insulting. It's insulting to the American public, I think, because it's, you know, obviously that grab that we showed earlier of Timcast, the podcast, you just look, I mean, he's obviously a stand-up guy. No one can deny that Joe Biden is probably a face value, lovely guy. Is he fit to be president right now? When you look at him on the world stage, I think most people just think no. I think that's a general consensus. So I think when you have this annual physical exam and it comes out, nothing here, nothing to see here, he's all good, I think that most Americans would find that kind of insulting and do want him to sit a cognitive exam.
Yeah, I think I'd go so far as to use the word gaslighting here, because I genuinely think that it's really insulting to basically say to the American public, almost 400 million thinking sentient people that they should trust the 38-page report that we've got here, we've put it all together, or based on what you see every day, your eyes, like what we see Joe Biden doing every day, but actually no, this report that we're waving in your face, that's what you need to listen to. It's really, it's terribly insulting.
I wonder how Ronny Jackson, the former White House doctor, he was the doctor for Bush, Obama and Trump. When he was in there for Trump, he was the one that had to administer the cognitive exam for Donald Trump in 2018 because he was copying so much criticism as whether Donald Trump is crazy, because we all know his approach to the presidency was far from, you know, the norm that we'd seen before. He did the exam. He then faced the media for what seemed like 2 hours, question after question, where his consensus was, look, he's fine. He's done this exam. It's a very thorough exam, etc. He is now calling for Joe Biden to sit that same exam to prove that he is sound of mind. But I think we obviously compare the pair with Trump and Biden, especially now that we know they're going up against each other.
Yeah.
The reality is Biden's 81, Donald Trump is 77. If he wins this year, he will also be into his 80s if he did another term. Do you think that we can compare them based on age or cognitive abilities, or is it just this is just it?
Well, I think Trump, this again is unfair to some extent, but when you're looking at elections, people think about politics a lot less than us or the viewers here do. They look at it for a short amount of time. They see Biden, he looks old, he looks frail, he looks doddery on his feet, all the rest of it. That may be an unfair thing to think about, but it's true. Trump, only a few years younger, looks like he's got a lot more vitality to him, right? He looks more robust, he looks sturdier. So then people will just assume that goes into their mental health as well. And a couple of years ago, when Trump had this, I think his doctor came out and said that he had the most astonishingly excellent health of any man ever to be president. Probably conveniently forgetting someone like Theodore Roosevelt. But you know, so Trump got a load of criticism for that, and the Biden team says, hold my Bud Light, let's make it even more embarrassing.
But do you think that they're like, I know you obviously said gaslighting, Maddie, but are they as we listed those three presidents before, and there's more examples of that, of doctors who haven't declared certain health issues from predators. Do you think that the Biden administration of the White House, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, are actually lying?
Well, I think there's a difference between outright lying and saying that we're not going to disclose details about the cognitive abilities. They've been very light on the detail there. So I guess that amounts to a lie because it's a sin of omission. And it is what could be more important than the mental health of the most powerful person in the world. But I think it comes very soon after that damning report from the special counsel. Basically, it was a report into Joe Biden's mishandling of some classified documents. And the report basically concluded that he almost couldn't be held fully responsible for what happened because he was so cognitively impaired. And he was forgetting details about, I mean, heartbreaking things like forgetting details about his son, Beau, who tragically died of cancer a few years ago, and this sort of thing. I mean, it's not pretty reading, and you feel almost like a bit grubby and tawdry kind of looking at it because it's sad, but equally it affects us all because it's the leader of the free world. So obviously we have a right to be interested and to know what's really going on.
Of course, and I think they're never going to do it. To wrap this segment up, they're never going to do it. They're never going to get Joe Biden to sit a cognitive exam for fear of what will happen. But I think it is important to the public when electing him again, if he were to be elected again, that he does sit the exam to prove that he's sound of mind, and then they can take it from there, whether they get Kamala Harris in charge or whether they elect... we're not even getting into that. Or another Democratic candidate, whatever it may be. But I think it is important that, you know, for peace of mind for the American public.